it just seems like it's getting into his head. How big does the mental part of the game come into aspect when it comes to MMA?
Man, over the years, I've mentally defeated myself sometimes before I even got to the cage. But everybody's different and everybody's process is a little different. I've had the luxury to be around Henry Cejudo here and there because of obviously John Jones and Henry kind of let us know, oh, it's mental warfare. Before the fight, it's mental warfare before the fight, and not to say that that's everything. In the case with Ran, we know his style, we know how he gets down, and we know that he's gonna come throwing them haymakers from Australia all the way to fucking New York City. So, it plays a little role into it, and maybe it'll get him off his game a little bit. Maybe it won't. Maybe, but I'm gonna do it. You're
Awesome. Thank you so much and good luck.
welcome.
Euro.
Hello, Maurice. Congratulations on reaching to this point. I wanted to ask, what was your initial reaction when you found out you were going to be competing in the semifinals of this tournament?
So I've said this in other interviews. I kickboxed for a little bit. I took a small stint. I got an opportunity to fight in a one-night tournament, made it to the final, fought Xavier Vigny, I think he's like 6'9" or 6'8" or something, but Xavier's big and he's athletic. I think it's one of Ngannou's old trainer partners actually now. It's kind of crazy that we went the ways we did after our glory careers, but I've never showed up as an alternate and not fought. So as soon as I got the confirmation I was an alternate, I treated it as if something was going to happen. It's the best tournament in MMA. I've said this multiple times. Not only do you have to fight good, you have to outlast injury. It's mentally taxing. It's physically taxing. Getting back from a fight, win, lose, or draw, and getting right back into camp. Sometimes you take a week or two off. You got some injuries, but I've gotten right back to camp, and this. Even though I lost my last fight and I was out, I had the idea that something was going to happen, Maurice. You're going to get your opportunity to come back. So I've treated it like that. So when I got the call, it was business as usual. It gave me something even more to fight for, even more to wake me up and get me to swimming, wake me up, get me in the gym. When I want to shut it down and go to bed, well, I still had a training session that night. And yeah, man, it was amazing. I was happy. I think the first thing I did was look at my son and said, Jackson, Daddy's back in. And my son goes, he said, let's go. I was like, okay, Jack, I see you, big dog. So, that's motivation in itself. Sorry, guys, for your ears.
That's what's up, man. I also wanted to ask you about, so you made an appearance on The Ultimate Fighter in 2018, and you made it to the semifinals as well. Since that point until now, how do you think you've developed as a fighter?
Man, I wasn't ready for the opportunity that I had when I was in the UFC. I know I went 3-0 my first three bouts in the UFC, but then when the competition got tough and it was time to really step up and train harder and harder, I thought it was what most fighters do. You get a little soft, you start thinking you the man, and I went to a couple gyms. I was in and out of those gyms, and really when John asked me to come and train with him, which at first I thought it was just a couple times, but it developed into what it is now. It kind of reignited that flame to kind of like see the process of not just a world champion, but the process of the GOAT, the greatest MMA fighter to ever do this, his process and what he goes through. I was lucky enough to, be very close to it. I'm not in everything, but very, very close. And, we're around the same age, and if he can still do it, I got less miles on my body. I know I can still do it.
Awesome. Thank you and good luck.
Thank you.
Anik.
Maurice, Anik Subramanian, Fightbook MMA. If you and Jordan Heiderman win your fights, it would be a PFL final between two alumni from The Ultimate Fighter. What was your favorite part of The Ultimate Fighter experience, and what did you learn from your time on Team Gastelum?
My favorite part was my team, fam. We had a solid team. I still talk to Coach T, who is one of the guys who you always see with Calvin Gastelum. I still talk to Coach T. He still tells me the same thing. He still asks me, Mo, you need to go and do 50 get-ups after practice. I don't care how tired you are. It's time to work. Do 50 get-ups. And then my favorite time, I think, on Ultimate Fighter is the time I did have with Coach T and the rest of the heavyweights. I'm still friends with Justin Frazier, who I feel like, I'll say this, I feel like Justin Frazier got the shaft. I think he should have got a chance more than a lot of us on the show. But obviously you see that we were the most dominant team. Most of us have been in the UFC at some point in time or have moved on to bigger and better things like Larissa Pacheco and myself. So
Great. And one more from me. I know there's been some heat between you and Henan in some of the previous press conferences. How do you feel about him?
from what standpoint you mean?
Like as a fighter?
I just told you he's tough. This man's tough, you know. He's gonna move forward. He's throwing haymakers from Africa, okay, or from Brazil all the way to New York, whatever you want to call it. They from way the fuck over there all the way over here, and he's trying to finish the fight, man. You know, and that's awesome. I welcome that. It's gonna be a tough fight. You know, we're not fighting chumps out here. You know, we're fighting some of the best guys in the world. So. You gotta have your A game, you know. It really doesn't matter what it looks like on paper. It matters who shows up that night.
Awesome. Excited to watch it.
Thank you so much.
Max.
What's up, Maurice? How you doing?
I'm doing well.
You sound inspired, which I love to see. So with a guy like Henan, he's, the first MMA fighter that you've fought who's taller than you and has a longer reach. I know you said you just fought kickboxing against Xavier Bigby. But I was looking at your past fights and I don't see anything since, I think, 2016 Chi Lewis Perry, sorry.
Chopper Chai Lewis Perry.
That one. Chopper Chai Lewis Perry that you fought that was that big. So how do you deal with someone? How do you prepare for someone with this much length? What do you do? Is it
He's an inch tall. Let's get down to the brass tacks. It's about an inch taller than me, maybe an inch and a half, right? His arms are about an 85, and they may be generous on those, but they may not be. The height is whatever. The leg reach is virtually identical. Okay, I got long legs. You ask him the same question because I bet you he may have not fought guys, period, my size. It may not happen. You know, John Jones has reached 84 and a half inches, and he uses his reach every bit at 84 and a half inches, and he's very good at using that reach. So, you know, I just don't think Ran is as good as John with using that reach. He uses it very well, but he also sticks his neck out. You know, we've seen it. You know, he's been able to get away with that shit, just like me, right? I've been able to get away with turning around and running away, right? I've been able to get away with dipping my head, right? This is something where these are things that I can't do fighting a guy of his stature, right? And vice versa. So, there's things that we got to do to get better, and you'll see Friday night how we made those adjustments.
Awesome. I do plan to ask him the same question. Thank you for your time, Maurice.
Thank you.
Richard.
Hey, Maurice. Rick Wright, Albuquerque Journal. You talked about training with John. How hands-on has he been with you? Does he spar with you, roll with you, or is he mostly an advisor?
We started this process training together. We still train together. You know, John has all of his coaches that advise him and all that. You know, they give me a couple things here and there, but we started training together, and that's we're training partners. So I do most things with John.
Okay.
Or my other teammates, right? We have a real tight group of dedicated guys that come in that gym, and in addition to John, we have the luxury of having, John bring out guys like Gordon Ryan, or being able to get a little bit of stuff from Henry Cejudo, or being able to go out of town and go to some of these cool gyms and meet these fucking awesome athletes that show us a little bit here and a little bit there. So, I train with them. Don't you guys ever forget that. I get punched in the face by them all the time. It hurts and it sucks.
You talked about Cejudo. Did John take you to Phoenix to work with him, or did Cejudo come to Albuquerque? How did that work?
Say it again?
You talked about Cejudo working with him. Did he come to Albuquerque, or did you go to Phoenix with John? How did that work?
No, not recently. Not that I know of recently. Just when you saw him last time, and I've been out there. When I vacation sometimes in Arizona, they allow me to come into the gym. So, I've been out there and trained with some of their guys there. We're talking about a little bit of knowledge, but at that level, just 10 minutes of talking, throwing some things by them kind of showing you one position. That's better than them showing you no position. So I don't want you guys to sit here and think that I've been training with these guys and I've been working. No, I've had the luxury to pick their brain for maybe 5 minutes and just get a couple questions answered or get a position question answered that will help me moving forward. You gotta learn how to kind of ask the right questions for yourself and see if you can't get an answer or two. And not expect a whole lot of hands-on. I'm not their fighter. I'm nobody's really fighter, So I just try to get as much knowledge as I can with the people that are around me and the information that I possibly have to reach out to with some of the great athletes that are around me. So,
do you still live in Albuquerque, or you were just here for camp?
Huh?
Do you still live in Albuquerque?
Yeah, I live there. I'm full time.
Okay. Okay.
All the way, baby.
Do you spend any time at Jackson Wink anymore?
No, I tell everybody this. I don't know why everybody thinks I still train at Jackson Wink. Okay. I've parted ways with Jackson Wink around just probably right after John, that whole thing happened with John for my own personal reasons. And I've had the luxury of being able to train in a small closed group with John and my teammate and cornerman, Jaime Romo, for over 3 years now, I think, or something like that. But it's been quite some time since I stepped foot in there and actually trained.
All right. Thank you, Maurice.
Thank you.
All right, last question, Mills.
What's going on, Pro Straight Boss, MMA Locker Room, part of Pub Sports Radio? How you doing today?
How we doing, big homie?
Oh, you know me, man. We good. Just spoke to you about 2 days.
Say that too. He feel me. Go ahead.
You already know, man. I just spoke to you about 2 days ago, man. We spoke about some things, but I want to pick your brain on this, man. It's going to be a little bit different too. Some fighters, they might look at some things that they have physically and look at it as a defect, but you never let that affect you, with the periphery or anything like that. Can you talk to me a little bit about, giving people the confidence out there, if their body's not the same as the other person, not to let that stop them to always go forward and pursue their dreams?
Man, it goes back to I used to not even think about using that as an advantage, but it was John who actually told me. I said, yeah, man, I got more peripherals and on one side than the other, and whoop the bam. And he was like, all right, Maurice, so how do you use that to your advantage? All right, where's the advantage there? So I broke it down with him. I was like, oh shit, motherfucker, you right. So again, this is using the people that I have access to, man. And I have access to some of the greats at certain times. I have access to just picking the brain of some of the greats, whether it be a coach, a high-level athlete, his coach's coach, maybe even in life, right? Even in life, and sometimes what to do next, or, how to do merch, or so using the network that you have available to you is very vital. And I tell not just fighters and, coaches, like everybody, assess your network and figure out how you can use it. You can help each other you know, you can get to a point where you can get the information you need. You know, there's someone out there, if you have a good, strong network of people, there's information to go out there and get. You just got to go get it. Like if you have like a disability or a difference, I don't even want to call it a disability, right? It's not a disability, it's just a difference. If you have a difference in what somebody else may have, if there's a possibility, you know, be creative and see how you can use that to your advantage. You know, that's how I go through life.
Got it, man. I like it. And one other thing, man. So since we got, two twin towers about to take off and fight. All right. So let's put this in the superhero mode. If you were to be a superhero and your opponent would be a superhero or a villain, who do you see you being and who do you see your opponent being? Break it down in the superhero type mode.
I don't know who he gonna be. He reminds me of like somebody who walks out with chest out, like, like a Superman. I'm here, chin high. If you look at how he stands and how we face off, chest high, chin high, he has to feel like he's bigger. Like that's a mental thing for him. I don't give a fuck. You can put me as a villain, baby. I want to be one of them ugly villains. He said I'm ugly. I'll be an ugly villain. Sometimes the villain do win the war. So, and he has to come back and reassess. But that's not till next year. So, the villain will be the crochet boss.
I love that. I always root for the bad guys.
Spreading love, though. I'll be spreading love, but just in the cage, I'm a villain. Okay, but when I get out of that cage, crochet boss is full of love and yarn and crochets and
crazy
hooks.
cats.
Okay, you got me.